Okay. All right, it is 8:30. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order for the City of San Angelo Development Corporation, Wednesday, August 27th. Before we get started, I would like to ask Mr. Barrio if he would lead us in a word of prayer.
Certainly. If you would bow with me. Heavenly Father, we come to you today as a body of the City of San Angelo, more importantly as a leadership group for the citizens of the City of San Angelo. We all come to you in prayer. We ask that we view every topic that we discuss today with open minds, that we consider them dutifully, and that we remain diligent over the funds that these taxpayers pay. Lord, bless this city. Bring us more rain. You've already shown abundance, but you know how we covet more. But with your blessing, we will receive it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, John. All right, at this time, I will open the floor for public comment. The board takes public comment on all items in the regular agenda. Public input on a regular agenda item will be taken at its appropriate discussion. Public input on an item not on the agenda or consent agenda may be identified and requested for consideration by the board at this time. The board may request an item be placed on a future agenda or for a consent agenda to be moved to the regular agenda for public comment. Is there any public comment? There being none, we will move on to our first item, which is our budget workshop, which is a discussion review of the fiscal year 2014-2015 budget. Mr. Roland Pena.
It's all right. I'll just play it by ear.
Good morning.
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 This is a very well respected board, and you are viewed on TV, and I get the similar kind of comments, Scott. And this is a very active board, proactive board. This is another opportunity for you to review the budget as proposed. We've brought to you a budget for several meetings now, reflecting any changes. This budget does not have any changes with the exception of additional anticipated revenues. Total revenues of $9,009,027. Expected total expenditures of $6,404,406, and what will go into future projects of $2,604,621. I have outlined for you the revenue. Notice that we changed the format. This format will help staff evaluate the revenues as they're coming in. We had bundled a lot of the revenues, for example, lease income. So it was hard to identify what revenues were coming in and which others were outstanding. So this helps, providing sub-accounts helps me and staff to be able to keep better track of that. Let's take a look at that. Notice we don't have a gain of sale, although we expect to have some potential sale of property in the near future. Expected expenditures, really nothing's changed here. I think we've done a lot of scrubbing to be able to identify what we intend to spend on. Also, while these are anticipated expenses, we want to continue to evaluate those expenses. And so while we may have it on the budget, we may determine that there are other ways to fund some of these expenditures, or we may determine that we can eliminate some of these expected expenses. So just so that you know what our philosophy going in. Notice here on Ports to Plains. I mean, I'm not going to read every line item. You have that in your board packet. But notice on the partner affiliations, we have those similar partners. One item that is not in here that is on your consent agenda is the 20 under 40. So if the board wants to continue to pursue that expenditure, let me know, and we've got a little room to incorporate that. I don't want to change the bottom line as we have it presented, and we haven't changed that in the last couple of months, and we try to stay within what we've determined are going to be our expenditures. We do have performance agreement audit in there of $5,000. I don't know that that we'll need that again next year, but it is in there as a potential expenditure. We are going through an audit this month. I expect that to be complete this week, and hopefully have a report for you the following board meeting. The ballot line items were provided to me from staff. There is a slight increase from prior year on the ballot items. With regard to the economic development expenditures, it's relatively pretty flat in my opinion, with the exception of adding the $650,000 to BREP. We're only $10,000 over last year's expected expenditures.
Rolling on that, the BRC solid waste or public service, are we going to have to amend that any with the recent increase we've seen? I know I saw that the county had to amend their budget for it. It may be a little bit, it may be a lot, I don't know, but.
We have not. I expect that, and we do have the room in the budget to accommodate that.
Okay.
I have not received a letter. Those invoices do come directly to us,
Okay.
But I have not received a letter indicating an increase.
I would expect one. I got a big one.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. So what you're seeing in this proposed budget is we have really done or tried to do our best to itemize a lot of these expenses instead of having them lumped together like you've seen in the prior worksheets. It just helps us better evaluate those expenses and keep better track of them. Do you have any questions?
Roland, after attending the workshop last week, at least to me, it came, I'm going to say, clearer that perhaps some of the things on which we are making expenditures are not in keeping with really the definition of incentives for sales tax dollars under either an A or a B. We're obviously under B, and that is the creation of primary jobs. And two things that jumped out at me just thinking, driving back, I wonder if the 20 under 40 and specifically the Ports to Plains is something that we really should be expending sales tax funds for, unless somebody can say, look, here's these primary jobs that were created, and they define clearly a primary job for us. I'm just wondering if we need to take a serious look at that in this budget, whether we make those expenditures or not. That's a question I have. Richard and Daniel can offer their thoughts. They were in the same meeting I was in, so I'm not sure. Are we going to be asked to approve this budget today in whole? Are we going to be able to, look at any of these things separately? I know we've got on the consent agenda the 20 under 40, that's really, we're going to have to pull that off if we're going to talk about it separately. I understand that. But what about the porch to plains?
Well, you can discuss it at the time you're ready to adopt it, if that's something that you want to pull or eliminate or discuss and consider further. The 20 under 40, I myself am having a more difficult time justifying that than the porch to plains. The porch to plains, many of the economic development corporations along the corridor are funding the porch to plain. Lubbock, for example, Amarillo, for example. Some of them are also doing what we're doing in terms of they're paying for their city. I want to continue with the approach that we've been talking about, and that is that we need to have a return on investment for those expenditures. And we need to assure that those expenditures meet the spirit of the law. So how do they create jobs? Transportation, if you went to the sales tax workshop, infrastructure is not really tied to
It's got to be tied to a specific
project. That's correct. That's correct. So because the Ports to Plains does focus on transportation, infrastructure, and mobility, it's a possibility that we stand to gain on a particular project because we've got an enhanced infrastructure. There are some projects here that I believe COSA DC should take the lead on. Ports to Plains is one. However, I do feel that we need to continue to evaluate and stress. Michael Reeves was in last week. They were preparing for their annual conference, which is also an agenda item. And they had a Mexican delegation here last week, and I made it a point to visit with him about Ports to Plains and that expenditure and how we feel as a board and as a body administering those funds and what we want to see come out of Ports to Plains. And in my view, we still need to continue to have more engagement, but also see more projects in our region. And I'm sorry, I'm biased, and I know we have a corridor and we all benefit, but whatever project is completed here will help our northern partners and our southern partners. So it all ties together. And I'm sorry if they feel a little bit different, but that's currently how that's my point. Richard and Daniel, do y'all want to talk about? And Tommy mentioned y'all were at the sales tax workshop, and your thoughts about Ports to Plains?
Well, he definitely emphasized that the expenditures must be for the formation of primary jobs. Another question we asked, because we know the city council is considered, is maintenance of streets. And we were told point blank, no questions asked, that is illegal under the state law for the 4B program, that we cannot maintain streets with sales tax money.
Unless you have the...
I guess unless there's an election.
Right.
Or unless it's a project.
Well, it's got to be a voter-approved bond or whatever before we can consider it. And there are things that in the infrastructure, along the infrastructure line, that kind of bothered me a little bit. I had a little bit of different take than you. Recently we approved the Pauline Street extension. That, to me, really caused a little anxiety because I thought about that. Number one, was that voter approved? I don't believe it was.
Well, and that's
going to the workshop when everybody has a chance to go. It caused me to take this more seriously in terms of expenditure and to question.
Good.
Are we are we going to have measurable, quantifiable ROI on these monies that we give to the partners? If we end up funding the 20 under 40, how are they gonna show us creation of primary jobs? It's not if they're going to, how are they going to? This is a far more, I think, serious situation. I think we all kind of get lulled into a little complacency when we do this. And candidly, I think people view the Development Corporation, if they can't get the money someplace else, we'll just go to the Development Corporation and ask them. They've got all this money sitting there. That's, I'm not sure that we should be even considering some of those things when they come. So, to me, this raises the level for us in terms of our oversight of the money with which we are entrusted through the sales tax.
Well, I'm glad it was well worth your while, and it's always good to have board of directors who are informed, and it just allows a better alignment between staff and the board. I had that discussion, a really frank discussion with Jeff DeLuche on the 20 under 40, and his position was that this is more of a retention, that these are jobs that are created, and we're able to retain them because of their recognition. And if you notice, the caption is more on the advertising. What I noticed was prior year, that's how you funded it, is the advertising, because you're allowed advertising on the budget. Jeff, so my position was this. If the board approved it last budget, obviously you perhaps evaluated it, and so I placed it on consent, knowing that if there is an issue with it, you can pull it, discuss it, and decline it. I do have a representative from Standard Times that can speak about it if you decide to pull it. She's here and can talk more about it. But no, I am with you, Tommy. I think every contract, every grant that we provide has to have the return on investment and the assurance that it either creates the primary jobs or meets the law of the 4B sales tax. And I'm doing my best to ensure that we put that in place. And some of my partners can attest to some of the discussions and negotiations that we're having with the contracts.
So, Roland, just to follow up on the 20 under 40 and give a little bit of history on it, that is the only way that we could see that we would be able to fund that was through the advertising. And we do get a great deal of advertising out of it. And we are allowed a certain amount of our budget for advertising. I don't know if that was brought up in the...
Is it marketing or is it advertising? To me, that is two different things.
Yeah, it's basically
marketing and advertising are two different words with two different meanings. I think we're allowed 10% for marketing, but advertising...
That's correct. That's correct. It's usually on the interpretation of the board. I lean towards more of the marketing than the advertising, but since that was the way it was presented last budget, that's why I resubmitted under consent in that fashion, because that's how it was presented to you in the past, and that's how it's been approved, and so I left it at that. But going forward, I do not, like I said, I don't have that on the budget. If you want me to reinstitute that in the budget, we can do that. Either way, I want to send a letter to Jeff to let him know our position.
Just to clarify though, advertising is a subcategory of marketing. And I mean, if you look at it, marketing is the over-encompassing thing of branding and customer relationships and all that stuff, and advertising is a part of marketing. So in my mind, any advertising you do is part of marketing. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the right advertising to do. We could take those $5,000 and put them in something else that we feel is better utilized, that we can say, okay, we put it towards a better website, or we put it towards going over here to meet with this customer, or any of that sort of stuff, that we can say, okay, that's a better return on our investment than the 20 under 40. But just for clarification purposes, advertising is a category of marketing.
And, you know, I will tell you that we, you know, at least in my case, I have to fend off. I mean, we're not a private entity. We're not in the private sector where we can sponsor events and, you know, for the purpose of having our name out there. At least I don't view it that way. I view our marketing just like you said. It's for the purpose of creating jobs and for the purposes of economic development. And so I try to make that distinction as I'm approached about that.
A request for next year. This is pretty much last minute. I realize since we went to this meeting, or since I went to the meeting last week. Here's a request for next year. Let's start earlier. And let's have, when we're talking about budget, if the board doesn't agree with this, that's fine. That's their prerogative. But just as a board member, I would like to see each of these things, the partner affiliations, each of these things that really come to us from the outside, that really that don't have anything to do with creating primary jobs. I would like to see these specifically as a single item on the budget in the larger picture of discussing the budget, so that we can talk about them individually and then vote on them individually. If the board feels like it is the appropriate expenditure of funds, so be it. But we'll vote on them individually, as opposed to burying them in the budget and having to vote against the entire budget just because there's something in the budget that may not necessarily be something I agree with. Is that a fair request?
That's a good request, but you have that, you know, you have that opportunity today. I mean, these items you can eliminate. I mean, if you're talking about the partner affiliations, you can evaluate, you can eliminate if you so wish and your desire.
Well,
but I do, Tommy, though, I do believe that we need to start the process earlier. I think hopefully by, you know, February or March.
I was going to say, since we only meet once a month now, that's fine.
Yeah.
But starting in July to me is not fine when we're discussing budget. March, February, I would say absolutely no later than April to start the discussion.
I'm in agreement.
No, and I agree with you. I mean, I think that's why we took away, what was it, High Wind or High Plains or
High ground.
High Ground? There you
High
go.
Ground and TMCN both.
Yeah, that's why we took them out, because we weren't seeing any sort of return on our investment in those. So, I mean, any of these things that we see on here that we go, okay, are we going to get any return on investment by doing the community events banquets? Are we going, or is that part of our marketing campaign for this? Or can we take that money and put it towards something else that will give us a better return on our investment? But any of these, like you said, if it's ports to plane, and we look at ports to plane and we say, okay, what is it that we're getting from it? What projects came out of it? And there's good projects, then we say, yeah, go ahead, let's keep funding them. If we look at at those banquets that are there, and we say, what are we really doing in those banquets? Have any of us even attended those banquets or done anything to promote the economic development? And take them out. But no, I agree with you there.
Roland, I'd like to let the representative from Standard Times at least discuss it with us. And my thoughts were at the beginning, when they was presented a year, 2 years ago when we first started, it was going to be a kind of like a seed money where they could get it off the ground. It's been very successful. If you attended last year's 20 under 40 banquet, I mean, it was busting at the seams there. And I think this year they're moving it to a different location to accommodate more. So I think we've been successful in helping it get to the point that it did create that marketing, advertising that we were looking for. But moving forward, I think from Tommy's experience and our understanding of what our duties are, and that we need to be consistent, and with y'all's help, the staff's help, presenting, giving us an opportunity in the future to individually look at what is the outcome of each project, and is it something that is consistent with what we're charged with here at the board. But at this point, I think I'd like to ask them if I see that they're,
Roland.
they're not missing us at all. I've seen all their advertising leading to this, so I think we've done what we were.
Since right now this is just budget, should we wait, pull this out of the consent agenda and wait for the representative from the Standard Times to come up to make it when it's an action item, as opposed to right now?
That would work either way.
As a point of clarification,
Let's do that.
the one that's on the consent agenda is in the current year budget, and this is next year's budget. So just to make that distinction.
Sure.
So he is correct. So I don't have it in this,
Right.
in the next fiscal year budget. If you want it in there, we'll have to readjust the budget.
It sounds to me like there's a little question at this point too, so
Okay.
I think Tommy's agreed, we're gonna pull that one and talk about it as an action
Yeah,
item.
I do want to pull that off the consent.
Yeah, we're gonna
Okay.
pull that one out of consent, so. Any other questions regarding budget? Any discussion? Everybody's good? All right.
Roland, I'm going to defer to you on the Ports to Plains. You believe at this point that Ports to Plains creates primary jobs?
Tommy, I believe that the efforts, if they're done with that purpose, in fact, they created an economic development committee that is going to be meeting at the annual conference. So I'm very interested in that. I believe if they continue to move forward in that direction, and if we have more involvement, I did tell Michael Reeves that we're going to get more engaged and we want more involvement, and we'll evaluate. I do think that Costa DC is the proper entity to help lead. Not to, we have some board members there that represent San Angelo, but I do think that there are some activities that Costa DC really needs to be more involved and be a leader in, and I think this is one of them. And if in that involvement we see no potential return on investment and no future positive outcomes for us, then I think we can recommend to the board.
How many board seats do we have on Ports to Plains for our contribution?
Our contribution, we pay the membership for the city, and the mayor represents the city, and we also have a membership for Costa DC. Chris Cornell is the other representative of San Angelo, and he is on an advisory board. I know he attends all the meetings.
Chris represents his
Doesn't he-
company, though.
Private sector. He's private sector.
It's a
That's-
private
That's
sector.
correct.
Costa DC has a membership, but it's a non-voting membership.
That's correct.
Only the cities themselves have the vote, are authorized on the board.
So is it a fair question from us? And I realize the mayor's on there. I realize this could be an inflammatory question, not intended to be, but you know, should we request that seat on the board since we're the one funding it?
If that's the desire of the board, I can pursue that. I know, I've talked to the mayor, and it seems that the entire council is supportive of Porch to Plains. I mean, I can't find anyone that is not, and he's very active in that, and he likes representing San Angelo. He takes that very seriously. So we can pursue that.
Well, again, this is a board. I'm not making decisions by myself up here. I would like to request a seat, the voting seat on the Porch to Plains board, since we're making the contribution. To me, that's a fair request. May not be, either the right request or may not be accepted, but I would like to request the seat on the board if we're going to be making the contribution. It's sales tax funds, we have oversight over those funds. That would be my request if the board agrees with that. Again, I realize that could be confrontational, not intended to be, but.
Alicia, so when they get ready to approve adopt the budget, can they make that part of the approval, or can they mention that at that point? Okay.
Roland, what would be the option of asking the Porch to Plains to add another voting member on our behalf? The mayor is very engaged, and I feel that he's done very well and represented, and I know that's not
my
what your question
intention. That's
is,
not
sir.
my intention at all.
Well, you know
But
what,
I think
it-
we
I
can
probably-
ask another voting member, and that would satisfy having one from the Costa
That's a good idea.
and having one from the mayor's office, from the city's
Okay.
perspective.
I'd be interested to see what the voting member composition is, if it's, who
I can
is
provide
represented.
that.
I think
Yeah.
we can find out, but I believe it's only one member per city regardless of
I
size.
think what Scott means is like elected official
Yeah.
or board member of the
member,
EDC, I think is what
Joe
you're.
Blow,
Private.
who composes the membership of the voting delegates for Porch to Plains? That would be a way
I
to
can get that
approach
for you, you bet.
If I may, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's truly not posted to make that kind of decision. If it relates to the budget and there's a question, you could remove that allocation, but otherwise, I think you'd have to come back. And obviously, we have to look at the composition of the board and the requirements.
I definitely think the composition of that needs to be looked at before we made a move in any direction.
Okay.
So we put that on
If
for
I
a
may,
future agenda item.
We can do that.
Regardless of the person who attends on the city's behalf. Since we are the funding unit, it would be appropriate to ask for a report after their meetings, be it the mayor or whoever attends. And I think that is what we're seeing right now, is we would like that communication to be more open.
Okay.
All right, other comments? Okay. I think we're good. Move on to our regular agenda. The consent agenda is what we have next.
Scott, I would like to pull off for separate discussion the item number 4, consideration of approving a contribution for advertising purposes to the San Angelo Standard Times 20 under 40.
Okay. Is there any other item that any member would like to have pulled to put in a regular agenda item, as a regular agenda item? All right, well then I will ask for a motion for approval of the consent agenda with the exception of item number 4, which relates to the consideration of approving the contribution for advertising purposes to the San Angelo Standard Times 20 under 40 program.
I will make that motion for the approval of items 2, 3, and 5.
All right.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the approval of items number 2, number 3, and number 5. Any public comment related to this? All right, if there are no comment, I will call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we will move to our regular agenda now. First item is presentation and update from MedHab LLC. Mr. Johnny Ross, you are up to bat.
If you pull the 20 under 40,
You want to?
You want to do it first? Okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
All right, well, we'll do that first. All right, first item, in consideration of approving a contribution for advertising purposes to the San Angelo Standard Times 20 under 40 program.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Debbie Velasquez, the Marketing Director at the Standard Times. Our 20 Under 40 program is in its third year this year, and it has just been a tremendous success. What makes it a success is that we are keeping the up-and-coming leaders of our city here in San Angelo. We want them to stay here. We want them to grow their businesses here. When they grow their businesses, they hire people. They bring jobs here. Do I have quantitative proof? No, I don't. But I know, and you can look at the section that you have in front of you, there are some tremendous people who live in this community, who raise their families here. And this program, I think by recognizing them, encourages them to continue to do what they do, to grow their businesses and to hire people. So I'm open for any questions you might have.
Question for you, Debbie. What is the composition of your board? Is there an opening, if we decided to pursue this and fund it again, is there an opening for a representative from our board to sit on the selection group?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's not a problem whatsoever.
Okay.
I'll just make a brief comment about this. I helped start the YPSA, which then in turn partnered up with the Standard Times to do the 20 under 40. And I was part of the original people that went before the Standard Times. That was before I was part of this board. So yeah, I've got a background with the 20 under 40 and with the YPSA from the very beginning. But I'll be honest with you, whenever I look at it, I do start thinking, okay, is it time to move beyond it and let somebody else take the advertising? Or is this board going to continue funding it? So I think for that intent purposes, I'll refrain from any voting for this item, just because I did help start it and I am still part of the young professionals, and I don't want to get involved.
That's not, and I appreciate your thoughts, that's not a legal basis
Yeah, no, but I'd rather
not to vote.
I'd rather not get involved.
Other comments?
Well, I've just got a problem with the fact that and I heard everything that you said. I have a problem that it creates primary jobs. If we can somehow say that it's marketing, advertising, okay, but from the creation of primary jobs, I'm not sure that we can say that it creates a primary job. So.
What do
You
you
do
guys
have,
think?
you do have marketing dollars right here in this section.
Debbie, you don't happen to have a approximate idea of how many ads that y'all run on this? I mean, there's been a great deal in the paper so far, and Costa DC has not been mentioned in it because of the coming up for a vote. But
Right.
As you go forward, do you have an idea how many ads you'll be running, what size?
I would say at least 25.
From the perspective of job retention, I have not yet attended one of the workshop sessions, so I may be speaking in a less educated way. But looking through this, it is my perception that each one of the positions, that just the 20 from 2013 hold. That they are most probably, at least from the wage and compensation perspective, qualified jobs, so they may not be in the appropriate NICS codes. We are certainly retaining, again, from my perspective, 20 good paying jobs here in San Angelo. And several of these are business owners who we can also presume have employees of similar caliber, character, and compensation. In any weighting that we do is on the balance between whether this is creating, retaining jobs, or simply from the advertising perspective. I believe we had very similar discussions last year on this. And again, in part because I have not yet been to the workshop, but based on the knowledge I presently possess, I would endorse funding this again.
Debbie, looking at the huge success that y'all have had, how difficult would it be for to approach private sector to pick up the slack that, again, like I mentioned it at the beginning, is when we first were presented with this, my impression was that it was the seed money to get it off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all have been hugely successful, and I think if this would be better accepted by the community now that it's at that level, to that part of the funding that we're taking out to be supplemented with private sector. I, as a private sector, would be interested in participating. I've never been approached, and I'm sure there's a lot of other individual private sector that would participate in this.
Yeah, I mean, Tony, you're right, and we do have businesses in the private sector who are also helping to support the event and the publication and all that goes into it, the banquet. And I appreciate you, wanting to possibly come on. Yes, we do seek that, but I think the partnership that we have with the Development Corporation is very important and gives you an opportunity, I think, to get your message out. And we appreciate your partnership and your support of this event.
I agree with Tony. When this deal started 2 years ago, I think that we were looked at more as helping with the seed of this thing. Get this thing off the ground. Get this thing off the ground, and obviously it's gotten well off the ground. But I don't want to say that I think that we're going to step back and have no involvement in it. I think we do need to have some involvement with it. The extent of involvement may be, maybe it's time for somebody else to take the lead role, and I don't know what role we would take, but I agree with Tony that I think the initial intent was we were going to get this thing off the ground, help get it off the ground, and continue to support it, but I'm not sure to what extent. So,
well, I believe to have a quality program like this is that we need to be able to sustain the program. Yes, we have grown the program. I mean, it's been a lot of hard work, but we need to sustain it and keep it at the level that it is.
What is your budget every year for this event and for this program?
Just our expense budget on it?
Yes, ma'am.
$25,000 to pull it off. If you take in what we do with advertising, with the marketing of it, with the banquet, with producing a first-class publication, we have thousands of dollars in hard cost involved with this program.
Question for staff. Have we seen any of the participants of the program approach us with growth potential and requests for incentives?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay.
Daniel, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm looking at this. one of the things that we learned is a key trend among economic development organizations.
Get closer to the mic.
Okay, I'm looking at this trying to, I wish it was over here. but
Gotcha.
Anyway, it states here, as such, the market for good professionals is tight, and the very best professionals are valuable and well compensated. And in your brochure here, I noticed a paragraph that says, we also assist the young professionals of San Angelo organization to get reestablished. And basically what this program is about is developing young professionals in our community. And I can see a correlation here with the trend of economic development today and what you people are doing, so I really don't have a problem with it.
Any other comments? Any public comments while we're talking about this? All right, well, I need a motion.
I will make the motion that we retain it as a budget item, that we proceed with the funding as mentioned in item 4, approving the contribution for advertising purposes to the San Angelo Standard Times 20 and under 40 program.
All right, I have a motion. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I think you have to state the amount as requested in the letter, which is $5,000.
For $5,000. Thank you.
I second that motion.
All right, I have a motion and a second for acceptance of the 20 under 40 sponsorship and at the amount of $5,000. Any further discussion? All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right, we got, and any abstentions? One abstention. All right, so we have, no, we got one nay, so motion carries.
If I'm not mistaken, unless otherwise legally disqualified from voting, an abstention or a failure to vote is a yes.
Okay. All right, so motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. All right, now we will move on with our regular agenda items. Presentation and update from MedHab LLC. We have Mr. Johnny Ross with us.
Okay. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Johnny.
Thank you for having me here again. I see some new faces, so thank you for the opportunity for those of you that have not met me yet to be here today and present. Proud to give you an update. A lot has transpired since we took up shop at the former incubator building on Beauregard. Pleased to announce what's going on today. Let me start off with I had the opportunity, Dr. Roden, as you know, started a lot of our software development at Angelo State University. He's now at Lamar, submitted a paper to an International Physical Therapy Society where we were actually hoping to get a poster, which is simply really what it sounds like at these meetings, a poster where you could just develop or show your technology. Interestingly enough, after that was presented, not only was that accepted, but we were asked to make a presentation because of the uniqueness of our technology. I went to Greece as a result of that to make this presentation, and it's been really good. As a result of that, there is also some licensing opportunities that we're looking at, but also I got to speak with many physical therapists and PhDs around the world about our technology to help continue to bring the best product that we can to market. Our intent while there was to show some of the motivation, the design goals, algorithm development, because what we are doing, some of it is not IT protected, and we can help some of the universities and some of the challenges that they're facing with this technology because it's so new to the market. A few updates here, as you can see. Last time you were at MedHab, we unveiled the Droid platform, smartphone device that works, and we were telling you that iOS was soon to come. Droid is an open platform. It makes development very, very easy. iOS, not so much because it's controlled by Apple, but that is now on the market, both Droid and iOS platforms, which is 90% of the smartphone market. As well, you can see some of the login screens here on the computer. As you know, there's a computer component for providers, so they can see the updates to all the patients. A few screenshots here on our mobile application for StepRight, which is the healthcare-related product. We've tried to make this as user-friendly as possible because not everybody that would use the device is technology savvy. So that was a difficulty, or not difficulty, but just we had to be very creative to make it intuitive. So as you see on the first screen on the left, there's actually four options that you see: exercise, data, pressure, and options. You also see the green feet on top. The green feet signify that the device is connected, meaning the smartphone is connected to the inserts. If a patient were to click on exercises, they would be asked to log in their name and password, because it's all password protected through our HIPAA secured server, and it would then move them to the exercise screen. The patient then simply clicks continue or begin, and they are walked and talked through the exercises. So every movement that the patient makes, let's just say, for example, if it is a knee extension, the smartphone talks to the patient and informs them in a countdown manner in 3, 2, 1, extend the knee. It tells them to hold it for the amount of time the provider wants them to hold it, and then it's returned to neutral. It repeats the process so there's an audible, the person can hear it. If they are hearing impaired, there's also text on the screen that goes through everything in sequence down to the second on what they need to do with their exercises. We're currently developing a 3D animated model who will perform the exercises on the screen in sync with the audible commands. So the idea is to make the person as compliant as possible, because when they're compliant, there is absolute evaluative data to make clinical judgments. The outcomes are better, and there's a healthcare savings cost, because right now, when people aren't compliant with their home exercise regimen, all kinds of bad things happen, and they have to go back to the doctor or to the physical therapist for more therapy or other items. Just a few more screenshots to show you here. A login screenshot. Here's a provider page. It's a little bit hard to see. You may have screens in front of you. But simply the provider to write a prescription for this device literally takes them a few minutes. Just almost like writing a paper's prescription once their account is complete. On the left side here, there's the two mandatory exercises. One is standing pressure, one is walking, which is gait analysis, because those are the two most important parameters to releasing a patient, whether or not they can go back to normal modes of life, work, whatever they may be doing. On the right side here shows you the options of different exercises. We actually have 120 American Physical Therapy exercises that are already programmed into the system pertaining to leg injuries. The provider simply clicks on whichever picture they want. A plus sign appears, they submit, and they all populate. So they can save different protocols for different doctors that they may be working for. For example, if you have a physical therapist here, I believe St. Angelo has 9 surgeons. One physical therapist may be doing work for all 9. Well, they can save protocols for knee replacement, partial knee replacement, hip replacement, pursuant to doctor's orders. Next time a new patient comes in from that doctor, click, the protocol is there. Trying to make it as quick as possible so that the providers can spend more time with the patients and not having to worry about setting up the patient. A few screenshots here. There's an example of the gait and the cycling screenshot. On the left and right columns are basically the left leg versus the right leg, compliance and range of motion and pressure distribution. In the center you see the graph, because so many of us are visual. So the doctors receive these all under HIPAA secured network to make clinical evaluations on the patient's outcomes and progress. Here's a typical range of motion exercise. You'll see in the center, that's a knee extension. Whatever exercise the patient is performing, the icon will reflect that exact movement in a static screenshot. The force distribution or pressure here on the right side, you see all of them have the exact same type of concept to make it easy to read and understand. We can see here left versus right leg distribution. We also can tell if the patient is pronating or supinating, meaning if they're on the outside or inside of their foot, both heel and forefoot. We also have compliance reports, because that's the biggest problem that we have, I was saying, is compliance and the lack of evaluative data. So on the left side, you see a compliance report that a provider, either a surgeon or a physical therapist, would see to make judgments. They're going to know if the patient's doing what they're supposed to be doing, because if they're not, the patient may not want to do these exercises, which we see a lot of times in workers' comp. But then again, there may be a reason why the patient's not compliant. Maybe they cannot do what the doctor is asking. So the doctor will be able to look at this information and make adjustments to the protocol to better meet the patient's needs. On the right side, that's the patient protocol. Obviously, the goal is to have all smiley faces. You might wonder why we kept it so simple. We had to make everything at a third grade reading level in the United States, which that's another subject to talk about. But regardless, we made it as simple as possible. The goal is the good smiley faces. Everybody knows they're doing what they need to do. This is just another view of those compliance reports. As you know, all of this started with the healthcare device because of the knee surgery that I went through that caused me to think about how we can make things better. Over the course of the last year and a half, however, the retail market, sports performance, has started to boom. Nike has the Nike Plus. Adidas has a product. Everybody's coming out with wearable products. So we decided that we can develop our device as well for both retail and healthcare. So we have a bifurcated sales strategy at this point. Some of the features now, RPM Square is the retail product. So you can see now on the coach share feature, coaches can be anywhere in the world and can see their data from their athletes and can coach them accordingly. This is real important because there's lots of coaches that do have a global reach that reside right here in America. In fact, there's several that are coaching, Olympic teams across the world, for example. The run gait, we received some incredible feedback from an Olympic legend, from the Philadelphia Eagles, Chip Kelly, and his trainer, Sean Holes, and some running and triathlete coaches as to how we can make our gait features better. And I'll show you a screenshot momentarily, but we've added what we call our sequential force strike analysis, where we look at step time, ground contact time, and flight time. We do all this in seconds, and it's 99.9% accurate, and it's being validated right now at Intermountain Health, which is a large healthcare system on a calibrated treadmill in Utah. Our cycling sprint modes, we've received some great feedback from Slow Twitch and other triathletes, and I'm going to show you a few screenshots of that as well. Slow Twitch, funny name, isn't it?
Funny name.
Yeah, it certainly is. But we have actually some different cycling modes. So just to kind of give you an example of a few screenshots, this is the difference. Left is iOS. Whoop, that advanced. Left is iOS. Right is Droid. What we do is we break up the run into 5 separate parts and snippets of time so an athlete can see, or a coach can see, how the athlete's performing at the beginning of the run, the end of the run, and evenly spaced in between. So you'll see like the first column here, then there's a second column left and right. We're looking at step time, ground contact time, and flight time. You click the arrow down below, and you can advance to other screenshots where you can actually see the feet icon, as you can see right here, the third one, where we're actually letting the athlete know if they're heel, mid, or forefoot striking, which is important not only to performance but injury prevention, and then how much acceleration force they have. If those acceleration force numbers in the green in the middle of that, right by the ball of the foot, the lower those are, the slower you are. We also have some of the range of motion screenshots, as you can see, very easy to use. Vast differences in how the two systems operate, however. The StepRight system on healthcare, the app pretty much does the work for you. You listen to it and click the button when it says. This one here is more manual operated, but all these guys that are in this market are very technology savvy, and that's just, they're used to gadgets and they love their gadgets. So the company Slow Twitch that I referenced earlier, they were looking at our device and said, Johnny, if you could add a few items, we think you have an absolute home run that every triathlete in the world is going to want. I said, what's that? They said, well, if you can have a crank, which is depicted here on these screens, and around the crank, 12 points, just like a clock, be able to show if the left foot and the right foot, is at the same point in time, which leg is using more energy, because it's important that they're bilaterally in sync. That's what all this is about. So if you look at, let's say, a 3 o'clock time period, you can click on the bar graphs, and it takes you to an expanded view of the feet, and you can see if you're pronating or supinating in the pedal. But more importantly, what we've created here is a power meter. And if you don't know what a power meter is, it's every cyclist in the world that has, is racing, every triathlete, they own power meters. And those power meters are $2,000 to $4,000 a piece. They use strain gauges, spoke gauges, and they are hooked up to a bicycle. MedHab and RPM Square is the first company in the world to bring to market a power meter at low cost, which is ours is 1/3 the cost of theirs, to include all of these other items that I've just mentioned, but it's in the footbed. So the athlete can pick up any bike they want as long as they have their phone and their inserts, and they can go ride, they can do their exercises, they're going to know how much power they're generating, and they'll have data. They can find a bike in the alley and get on it and do it, and they'll have it. It's that simple. Going back to MedHab on the StepRite category, is the retail market's fun and exciting because there's really lots of neat things to do, but the pure bread and butter of the company is in healthcare. That's where it started, that's the roots, and that's where we will continue to grow. We just sent in our benefits category research to the Center of Medicare and Medicaid Services with the help of Congressman Barton in Arlington. It's about a 90-day process. What that does for us is tells Medicare what benefit category we are, and it makes a difference as to how much reimbursement that we would receive for that product. That was an arduous task writing that up. I thought the FDA was tough, but they're maybe even tougher. A few stats here on wearable technology as we wind down. First and foremost, right now, if you look at the healthcare market, it is estimated that 100 million patients per year are going to be wearing wearable devices by 2016. I'll also add that by 2016 in the retail space, there's 80 million of these that they expect to be sold annually. We just need a sliver of that to create the jobs that we expect to create in San Angelo, Texas. Item 2 here. The devices that are worn, they're groundbreaking devices. I mean, I think our device is really interesting, but I've seen other ones that you just look at that and you're like, how can that possibly work? But this market is fast and furious. It's going to make lots of economies in healthcare. It's going to be very good for cost savings and outcomes. And there's increasing evidence of the continuation of these products growing. And the need for them. I can tell you today, it's not in my update, I just received an email from Dr. Richard Paxton from the University of Colorado that is investigating right now the long-term effects after surgery that people are not bilaterally in sync, and he wants to collaborate with us, which we will do, on an NIH grant where we will supply inserts to take a look at this population of what happens after surgery and why we continue to have leg issues. And it comes back to physical therapy and not doing what we need to do. It's almost a proven fact at this point in time, and we intend to prove that. Again, like I said, there's a growing number of medical devices that are becoming wearable. That's just the nature of what we can do today with all this technology. I'd like to go back to item number 2 on devices that are expected to produce more groundbreaking innovations. I do want to let you know today that we have also an agreement with the University of Texas in Arlington. As a byproduct for going to Greece, and speaking with everybody, I don't know why it happened when I was there, but it did. I just thought of another product that we could bring to market in regards to prevention. I believe as a society and as a healthcare society, we do a horrible job with prevention, and that's why we have cost overruns in healthcare the way we do. Regardless, I can't tell you too much of the detail today, but I hope to in a few months. But dating back to a patent we have to 2012, we are developing now through an REU grant at UTA. We're employing students that will build the software for their next product that we should have on the market as early as January. So the potential for 3 products on the market by January, February time period for us is very, very good. I won't go through all of these points right here, but there's just some more market research information here that just talks about these devices and how they're going to transform healthcare, sports performance as we know it today. A little bit more on our progress report. We moved our manufacturing from Athens, Texas for right now, our interim manufacturer, to Watertown, South Dakota. The reason being is we've gone through a few manufacturing runs, and this is what has put us behind a little bit. You know, we expect time delays with technology. I mean, we're creating a trail. We're not walking a trail, so there's going to be these type of delays, longer than I would like, but we've overcome a lot of this, and we're ready to start rolling now. Regardless, a company in Athens, Texas, that was tasked to build our devices repeatedly failed in smaller runs, couldn't get it right. And that has to be right, because whether it's the retail market or the healthcare market, that product is built by FDA-regulated quality systems. That's our requirement. They couldn't do it. So we terminated the contract and moved it to Spartan for right now. Some of that business will come back to San Angelo, Texas when we're ready. We're in a silent launch mode right now with RPM Square. The idea, we have a major announcement that we'll talk about in the very, very near future, and we will move that from a silent to a global marketing campaign. Our FDA filing, we expect that to be in 45 days to 60 days, depends on when we get our electrical test back. Like as I said, we expect to have 3 products on the market by February, 1 being RPM Square, 2 being the Step Right product, pursuant FDA approval, which takes 3 or 4 months, 5 months in some cases, and then this 3rd product that I mentioned that we're working with UTA to develop. We've hired 6 employees, and we're actually our 6th employee here last week. As you know, we put a lot of stock into Angelo State University, and every time you see me, I talk about that. Because what Angelo State University and the students have done, Nike failed to do, MIT failed to do, and these students over here did it. It's just absolutely amazing to think about the software that they have developed. We have contracted with 5 students, 30-plus hours for the last 2 years, and we have hired 4 Angelo State University students. As you know, it's our goal to retain those students and that talent here in San Angelo, Texas, because we're tired of seeing it leave. For those of you that don't know me, I grew up here in San Angelo. I've watched it for years. We need to keep those people here, and we hope to do our best to do that. To date, we have not requested any financial support from the COSA DC. As you know, we have a 5-year contract with 6 employees. I don't feel it necessary to do that at this point in time. It's a waste of your time and energy probably looking at such a small number. So there's no liability or risk on your part at this point in time. You know, when the numbers are right, I'm thinking 25 to 30 employees, and then I'll talk with Mr. Pena and Mr. Schneeman as to when the best time might be to do that. Last but not least, and I'll open it up for questions, we have a very big surprise announcement to make actually 2 weeks from now. There's one person in the room, Dave Erickson, that knows what we're going to present. I'm not going to tell you today what that is, but it's enormous potential for our company, and I'm going to invite each of you to MedHab and show you some of the things that we're doing again and make that announcement at that point in time. I believe that announcement will be the catalyst that spars the growth and the revenue generation that MedHab needs, not only to sustain our business, but to create the jobs that we intend and have contracted to do. With that, I want to thank each of you for your time and open it up for any questions you might have.
How many total jobs do you have here locally now?
6.
6?
Yes, sir. 2 in the Dallas area, 6 here.
Is Alvin Yu still on the board of directors?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What were the terms of the contract in terms of incentives offered?
There's a total of about right at $3 million in incentives. Part of that is the free rent that they are receiving at the old incubator.
Right.
And that's quite a sizable chunk of that, by the way. Job creation, I think we're looking at someplace between 75 and 200 jobs.
Yes, sir.
But they've got about 6 years to do that, and there is no timetable other than the final timetable. So, and then there's help with other things like if they decide to purchase or build a building, we would contribute something to that. If they lease another building, we would contribute an amount to that. I don't have all the specifics in front of me, but that's generally the way it's been structured.
Okay. Okay.
How long did you say they had to create those jobs?
I believe it's 6 years. I'm sorry, I don't have the contract in front of
6
me.
years.
But I believe it is
Yes,
6
sir.
years.
6?
Yes, sir.
So Johnny, at this point, what do you have in San Angelo? Since
Certainly.
wasn't here, what do you have here now?
Can you be a little bit more clear on what you're
What
asking?
operations, what administrative functions, what manufacturing, what are you doing over
Okay,
at the
sure.
incubator?
Sure. Right now, what we have all of our software. Our IT department is here and will remain here. All of our distribution is here, and that department will grow, as revenue obviously dictates. As stated, our contract manufacturing is done at Spartan, South Dakota, but Medicare requires redundancy sites. So we will always continue to have presence in South Dakota to do manufacturing, but we'll bring some of that manufacturing here as well. We will do that with all products that we manufacture. But what happens is the product is actually the harness, if you will. It's all the components are put together now in South Dakota, sent to Rhode Island, and they're put into the inserts, the polymer, and then it comes back here for distribution. So we have, like I said, the 6 employees here. The vast majority of their functions today is IT development, and they are now building the services and the website necessary to support the call center, which will be here, and the technical support, which we anticipate hiring a few of those right after the new year. We may need to do it more sooner than that, because we're actually doing a phase 1 clinical trial with Steve Martin over at West Texas Rehab right now. Once that clinical trial is done, it's about a 45-day trial capturing data, and then from there it moves to a phase 2 trial that our medical director, Dr. John Early, is doing at UT Southwestern. September 1st is the kickoff date for the University of Southern Cal to start their exercise, their study, and now this new one with Colorado is coming up. So as you can see, we're going to have to start, making sure those systems are in place so we can create the jobs to support that. But distribution and IT is what we're doing right now today.
And you said when you're ready, you would move. You didn't say all. I think you said some of the manufacturing.
Yes, sir.
If I heard you correctly, back from South Dakota.
That's correct.
To San Angelo. What dictates when you will be ready? Is workforce a problem here?
No, I don't think workforce is a problem. It's a matter of the first step that we need to do is make sure that the consistency that we can have a manufacturing process that allows for only a 100% or 1% failure rate or less. We're moving to that very quickly in the short runs. Once that process is cast in stone, the FDA is going to go to South Dakota. They're going to check that and make sure that it is what it is. Once that's done and revenue dictates, because we can't do this in the incubator, there's not enough space. We've developed machines. They're not big machines, but they're tabletop machines, and we have to continue to bring more and more of those in to test and manufacture the product. Once all those are done and in place, all the systems there are in place, we will move that here. I don't anticipate that happening, Mr. Hebert, until we have our own building, because we just don't have the space there, because that building, if you've been in there lately, it's chopped up. We just can't do anything with that there.
So is that something we can help with? To get manufacturing jobs here is a huge, huge thing.
Yes. Yes.
Are we working toward that end to help secure a location so that they can get that
Johnny and I have been talking
Yes,
about it.
yes, we've talked about it. And the thing is, I can't sit here and tell you, is that going to be, in 3 months from now or a year from now? I don't know, because it's all revenue dependent. I can tell you there's a number in my mind, which is 20,000 units. That is when we have to start looking, because we know we have to ramp up at that point in time. I believe the announcement that we're going to make next week and what we're doing with that will have a big part in getting to that unit. But Mr. Schneeman and Mr. Pena I've met on several occasions. We're good to go on our side right now. It is just a matter of we've looked at several buildings in the past. I haven't lately because, quite frankly, I had bigger things on my plate. I had to fix our manufacturing problem first and foremost. And as I'm saying, we're creating a trail, not walking a trail. And there's other technology issues that we are always facing. And those take more of my time right now. We about have all that wrapped up. We're doing our final calibration. It's now a matter of if we think what's going to happen with this announcement, we start generating the revenue that we believe we'll generate, then we'll need to start looking at a building.
Good. I encourage you to do that as quickly as humanly possible to,
Yes, sir.
to get the jobs here. To me, that's if there is a good component, exciting component to the project, is getting the manufacturing jobs here.
Absolutely.
We don't want the rest of it to go away that you already have here, but still.
Yeah. Well, what I see happening, and, of course, it's, it's about growing the business. But we have now 11 patents or patents pending, both domestically and internationally, to include, as you know, the stuff for the legs. We have it for the lumbar spine, for those of you that are new. We also have it for the upper extremities. And all of that is going to have some type of a component of manufacturing here. One of the other items that we're going to be doing in the very near future, and we'll probably build this 100% in San Angelo, is all of our systems work on a charger. Okay, think of it, it's about the size of a coffee cup holder, those little warmers. And like the inserts, you literally set it on top of the charger. There's a coil in the insert that has a QR code that reads that charger. They talk to each other and says, give me energy, and and the charger gives the battery energy in the insert. Well, right now we're having to buy those from Hong Kong, and they're $24.50 a piece, and there's a 10 to 12 week lead time. And it is what it is. That's the only place you can get them right now. That's just not acceptable. I've actually designed a new charger that we can actually patent, and we have already have that in the works. Basically what will happen is some of the components of that will be built somewhere else, obviously where that expertise with that type of machinery, high-tech machine shop basically, probably Spartan in South Dakota. All those components will be put right here, and we will do the assembly of that charger here, because we believe we can make that charger for about $6 or $7. We can sell them to ourselves, create the manufacturing here, but we can also then have a charger that's going to be usable for all other medical devices that are coming into this space. So the future is bright. It's a matter of just getting that initial push so we can move on down the line.
Where in South Dakota is your facility?
Watertown.
Watertown.
Yes, sir.
I know they have a 1 cent cheaper sales tax up there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that might have something to do with it.
Well, no, that has nothing to do with my decision, because I'm not aware of that. Spartan is the company there in Watertown, and they develop our PCBs, what we call the board, and they're good at it. And when we had the issues with the company in Athens, Texas, since they were a part of it, we had their engineers, the TMAC engineers, everybody went to Athens and looked at it, and it was a conclusion that everybody came to very quickly. This has to be moved, and better processes can be in place. That is simply the reason why. I can tell you right now, there is absolutely no desire on my part to move anything else out of this state of Texas or away from San Angelo. In fact, Spartan actually offered, they have 5 plants, one in Vietnam, said we can cut your cost a little bit, and I told them no. I want everything built in the United States.
Winters are mild up there too, by the
Sir?
way. Winters are mild up there too.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not going up there in the winter, that's for sure. Other questions?
I didn't know if you were making a pitch for South Dakota.
Already did.
Are you from South Dakota?
Yes, sir.
Oh, where about?
Well, I had to go see Deadwood.
Mm-hmm.
Mount Rushmore.
There you go. Interestingly enough, I was in a regulatory meeting Wednesday with a gentleman named Ken Block, who's our consultant, and we had Spartan on the phone on some of the design aspects, and ends up that this gentleman, Ken Block, is from Watertown, South Dakota, and went to school with the engineer that we're talking to. I thought, what a small world is that.
All right.
Before we get off of this, one thing I'd like to point out, Mr. Anderson, you asked about the 6 years to create the jobs, and they don't get an incentive for job creation until the jobs are created. So they have not asked for anything yet. I just want to make that perfectly clear.
Understand.
Any other comments? All right, how about a 5-minute break before we proceed? Mr. Ross, appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time, everybody,
Thank
and
you.
hope to see you here in about 10 days at MedHab.
Great, thank you.
All right.
All right. It is straight up 10 o'clock. We are back in session, and we are moving on to agenda item number 7, which is presentation of the second quarter 2014 marketing and recruitment report by the Chamber of Commerce. We have Mr. Michael Looney with us. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. Good to be here. Just what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of skim the treetops and keep things moving along rather briskly. And if you have any questions, you can stop me or we can visit offline after the meeting. Basically, we have been continuing the work on initiating contact with local employers, prospective employers, and also working with Goodfellow Air Force Base on several initiatives to continue the partnership that we have that San Angelo enjoys with Goodfellow. I can tell you in my relatively short time here, I've spent some time on the base and spent time with several of the wing commanders. And I'm sure you've heard this many, many, many times, but it's always impressed me coming from a family who was in the Air Force, just how dearly San Angelo is held in the hearts of so many people at Goodfellow Air Force Base. And they really appreciate all the outreach that the city provides. And that's interesting because for many years I've been with my father stationed near several Air Force bases and on bases where you didn't have that. You just did not see that there was very much of a community spirit. There were base people and then there were city people, and they generally didn't mix. Kind of going through local employers that we're working with. We've initiated go-forward programs with 7 companies at this point. And we're in the process of working with them on expansions. And I can't go into any detail about their identities. They don't want me to announce that, but one is an international energy support services company that's based in Houston, and they're looking at 100 acres in town. We have put them in touch with the appropriate parties. We've been in touch with this company's broker, 2 brokers out of Houston, and they have reported that things are progressing very well. I have a contact with a large call center, a contact center, and I'm in the process of trying to put a relationship together with Sitel. And of course, Sitel's very aware of what we're working on. But that's if that relationship were to blossom and become a transaction, it would be a pretty solid employment event, you could say. Working with a solid fuels company and on an expansion of their facilities, and we're also working with a therapy provider that you guys know as Mosaic, and we've forged a good relationship with them. And then also a employee management systems manufacturing company. I could tell you who they were, but they've asked me not to. But the point is, in my relatively short time with the chamber, hit the ground running and have really established a lot of good relationships with a lot of local companies. Outside prospective employers, working with 2 international hospitality providers. Some of you are aware of one of them. Their base is in Dallas, and currently have established a relationship with them and put them, of course, in touch with all the appropriate parties. And then also another hospitality provider, a company called V3 Capital Partners, and they have closed on a piece of property on Bryant and will begin construction in a couple of weeks. Moving on to any questions on any of the corporations or employers that I've been working with? Nothing yet. Moving on to kind of a strategic plan update. Phil Neighbors led the trip to Washington, D.C. on April 28th through May 1st as part of the Goodfellow Air Force Base Partnership Initiative. Also has been working with, and I've now been involved with working with the Air Force Joint Emergency Management Training Work Group. A couple of memorandum of understanding have been signed. They are called MOUs. And one is for the Combined National Incident Management Services, or NIMS, training facility and program. Another MOU was signed for the shared use of Goodfellow Firing Range and Training Facility. That was in conjunction with Tom Green County Sheriff's Department. Subgroups continue to work on these ongoing action items as part of the Goodfellow Community Partnership Initiative. Several of those items are shared library support usage, shared vehicle maintenance program, training and education partnership with Angelo State University and Howard College, enhanced Center for Security Studies cooperative agreement. It's also included in that. Mr. Neighbors, is there anything you would like to add, pardon me for this digression, about the Goodfellow relationship that you've obviously been working on for many years?
Unless they have questions.
All right, very good. Basically, that's kind of a skim the treetop summary. Obviously, you have all of this information in your packet, and I'm very happy to go over anything in detail with you. But at this point, I'm going to conclude these remarks, unless there are any questions that any of you have.
Any questions?
Anything else? Very good. Gentlemen,
All right.
thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael.
Appreciate it, Michael.
Happy to
We
serve.
appreciate
Thank
your
you.
energy and enthusiasm.
I appreciate that, and you can expect great things from me. I hold myself to high standards. I love what I do, and I absolutely love this community, and that's specifically why we moved here.
Don't let your
Happy
hair
to
get
do
in
it.
your eyes.
Say again, sir?
Don't let your hair get in your eyes.
Wow.
That is impossible, actually, Tommy. Thank you all very much.
I have the same problem.
Thanks, Michael. Okay, moving on. Presentation and consideration of approving the July 2014 financial statements and any action there too. Ms. Rebecca Tambunga, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, the July financials, if you look at page 1 on the executive summary, the available fund balances for the economic development side, there is going to be a correction that I will go ahead and explain in detail on a subsequent page. But the fund balance for the ballot side, we have $3.4 million. Sales tax for the month of July was $710,000. We were up 9%, bringing our year-to-date in excess of $889,000. On page 2, we have those expenditures by major category graphs. And on page 3, we have the balance sheet for the economic development side. We have our assets, our cash and investments of $8.6 million, sales tax receivable of $389,000, our fixed assets of $3.3 million. And on the fund equity side, that designation for economic development projects that we look at on page 5, the breakdown, this is where I had identified a formula error. So as you can see, your balance sheet stating $2,280,083. The correct amount should have been $2,275,009. This brings your fund balance for the economic development side up to $6,738,645. On page 4, we have the revenue and expense report for the economic development side. The revenues are sales tax of $203,000, as well as some airport hangar lease that we received of $11,000, bringing our total revenues to $215,000. For the expenditures, we did make that staff service payment. Economic development's portion is the 75%, so we paid $97,000. And we had our marketing contract with the chamber of $18,000, as well as our downtown San Angelo contract of $18,000, bringing our total expenditures to $138,000. We were revenue over expenses of $77,000. On page 5, we give the breakout for those economic development projects. As I stated, this is where the formula error occurred. So if you look at the budget, the total should have been $4,612,763. To-date expense total should have been $2,337,754, bringing the remaining budget and your total commitment on those economic development projects to $2,275,009. For the ballot side, on the balance sheet, we have our cash and investments of $3 million, our sales tax receivable of a little over $1 million, and then on the fund equity, we have a designation for affordable housing of $92,000, our debt service of $470,000, bringing that fund balance for the ballot side to $3.4 million. On the revenue and expense report for the ballot side, our revenue, just our sales tax of $523,000, and on the expenditures, we had the remaining 25% of that staff service contract for $32,000. we were revenue over expenses of $491,000. Page 8 gives you those ballot projects. We have a remaining portion of the sports facility maintenance of $131,000, as well as the affordable housing of $92,000, bringing your commitment on the ballot projects to $224,000. Pages 9 through 17 give you that transaction detail by account. 18 through 21 have the voter approved projects. And those are the July financials. I do apologize for the formula error that I had. I will send Roland the updated financials, and he can get those out to you.
All right. Any questions? All right. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to approve the financials as presented with corrections noted.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Presentation and consideration of adopting the fiscal year 2015 budget and recommending the same to City Council. Mr. Pena.
Board, we've had an opportunity to review the budget in our budget workshop. It is now up for your consideration, discussion, should you want to make any changes. If you need me to go back to that spreadsheet, I can do that.
I'm good.
I'm good. Discussion?
I think I'm ready to make a motion to go ahead and approve as presented by our director.
During the budget workshop. Okay.
I will second that motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Villarreal, second by Mr. Barrio. Any further board discussion? Any public comment? All right, there being none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, item number 10, presentation and consideration of approving the Concho Valley Center for Entrepreneurial Development annual report has been pulled. We will have that on a future agenda. Item number 11, presentation and consideration of adopting the business retention and expansion economic incentive policy and recommending the same to City Council. Mr. Pena.
Board, this is an item that we have been working on. The board has requested. We made that part of our goals as well, and we drafted and presented back in June. Since then, we've developed one of the key components. By the way, the ad hoc committee has been working very hard on this. Scott and Tommy and John and Pedro, not all at the same time to have a quorum, but we did have alternates in the event one was unable to attend. In the document, you have the program plan as presented back in June. It has its objectives, short-term, long-term, and it identified a four-stage process: the planning and the business survey, immediate follow-up, data analysis, recommendation, implementation. And part of the resources that we'll need to fulfill the plan was the promotion materials, the survey, and an incentive policy. That's what the committee has been working on. For the past several weeks, we've been meeting almost weekly. The economic incentive policy has 9 categories that would be made available to a potential business that is looking to expand, and we would also utilize to help retain a business in the event they are looking to move. 9 categories involve the capital investment and a tax abatement or tax rebate policy, development fee reduction, sales and use tax rebate, life safety incentives, and you can see that in your packet, which involves the water tap fire suppression, secondary egress grant program, sprinkler monitored smoke alarm systems, asbestos abatement incentive.
We also added other code deficiencies. We did take this draft plan to internal stakeholders, members of the staff involving finance, accounting, development services, had some really good feedback, and so we incorporated some of their input into this. These 9 categories offer us some flexibility to help design an incentive for these businesses. In I guess our thought process as we were developing this, by the way, also has the business training. You may recall that we included or approved, the board approved business training classes that will be produced by West Texas Innovation Network and ASU. It also has workforce training and relocation incentives in the policy. But our thought process was that we make this policy administrative, much like the tiers incentive policy operates today, where staff is able to put together a package and an incentive for the business and have that basically worked by administrative staff, and that includes the tax rebates. It just helps to expedite the process, in our opinion. We like that approach. I think that helps us work more effectively. It provides some certainty with businesses. I think it's good for them to see what kind of incentives are available. Obviously, it is a menu. Not all the items will fit, and so we'll have to tailor the package that we put together. But I'm excited about what we put together. It's been a lot of work, and the board members that have participated in the committee just did an outstanding job with that, and I'm pleased with the help that I received internally as well. And so with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have. In addition to what's not on the ad hoc committee, Dave Erickson with Small Business Development was also part of that committee, and Michael Looney as well with the Chamber of Commerce. I failed to mention on the PowerPoint, but they were also part of the committee.
So this kicks off, Roland. We'll begin in earnest from a marketing standpoint externally October 1.
Yes, and so in your approval, I would recommend the approval of the plan and incentive policy as recommended, effective October 1. And so that'll be perhaps part of the next step. Also is developing the marketing materials that we want to utilize, that we want to present to a business as we call on them. We have been working with workforce development, and they're developing a database for us that identifies existing businesses within the NAICS codes that we target, and that's getting finalized now. So we're moving forward. I think we're all excited about what we put together, and I think it'll make us much more effective.
I am hopeful. You know, we had lots of discussion on this. I am hopeful to maybe start bending let's call it the curve the other way. It makes me sad to hear when I have conversations with people in the community that, and I realize the city is labeled very broadly and very generally, but as not business friendly. Hopefully this can be something that we can start to bend that curve to hopefully demonstrate quite actively and proactively that, you know, we want people to grow their business. We want to help expand the tax base. And we want to do that locally right here with our existing folks. So hopefully, you know, I see a couple of people in the room here that have contact with lots of business people. Hopefully we can partner with them and demonstrate to them that, you know, we are trying our best as a development corporation to be business friendly. So hopefully that can start to to change some perceptions that, rightly or wrongly, are ever present in the community.
Well, I'm very hopeful. I think it'll complement what we're doing, and so it should lead to a positive outcome. I think what I have not said is that the committee did take into consideration even the smallest business, even the small business of 2 employees or 1 employee. So we spent a lot of time and a lot of discussion. In fact, we pilot tested this with an existing company that is currently wanting to expand, and we'll discuss more about that in executive session, but we were able to test what we've put together, and so you'll see more of that in executive session.
Roland, remind us how many, I know it's not many, but how many NAICS codes do qualify? Again, I realize it's narrow, but this we'll have to say no to some folks that would like assistance simply because by state law their particular NAICS code doesn't qualify. So how many codes are there that qualify?
There are approximately 16 umbrella NAICS codes. Under them are sub accounts, yeah, and that's a larger group, but there are 16.
Good. I hope October 1st comes, I hope we actively begin our marketing effort and making it known to the business community and show them hospitality and that we want to be helpful.
It has so much potential. I'm having to hold back from how excited I am, and I know the partners are too. So we've gotten really good feedback. So we're all pretty anticipating some good things from it.
Well, having served on the committee, and I think I made almost all the committee meetings.
Pretty much.
I appreciate everyone who did sacrifice some personal time and show up, and great input. We really hammered out some things that were sticking points, and actually completely reversed one perspective that I think will help many businesses. But that being said, our goal was to establish a template, and through recommending approval by the City Council, we hope to have this in place in a manner that the staff can identify a project, vet it, have the incentives, as long as they stay within these parameters, pretty well be able to say, we've got pre-approval on this, and move forward much more expeditiously. And that will in turn help with what Tommy pointed out, the perception that we may not have been perceived as being business friendly in the past, but we're going to make it as clear as we possibly can. So I will go ahead and make the motion on behalf of those who served on the committee, I believe, that we adopt this. Let's see, I want to read it right. The Business Retention and Expansion, BR&E, Economic Incentive Policy, and recommend the same to the City Council. And I submit that as my motion.
Effective October 1.
Pardon?
Effective October 1.
Effective October 1.
I'll second
Thank you.
that motion.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Barrio, a second by Mr. Hebert. Any further board discussion?
Roland, on the business expo that the chamber has, do we have a booth at that expo? I think this would be a good opportunity, since it will get approved. I sense that.
We've been sharing space with the chamber. At that.
This would be a good time to showcase it because it's directed with all our partners or the business community.
Is that after October, or do you know when that is?
It's next month, isn't
Next
it,
month.
Michael, Phil?
Okay.
Be part of that, so be ready for October 1st.
Further discussion? Any public comment? Mr. Neighbors.
Yes, Phil Neighbors, San Angelo Chamber, and I just briefly want to say how excited I am about this and how we look forward to partnering on this. The other negative that we as economic development entities often hear, in addition to the one that Tommy cited, is that, well, you guys are just really there to support the big businesses. And this demonstrates perfectly the fact that smaller companies with smaller new capital investment and fewer employees have the opportunity to receive support and assistance. And so we look forward to partnering with you on it.
Cool.
Thanks,
Thank you, Phil. Further public comment? All right, there being none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good deal. All right, moving on. Consideration and possible action regarding the funding of a change order for Case Toll Solutions Incorporated electrical service and recommending same to the City Council. Mr. Bob Schneeman. Good morning.
Thank you. Board may remember we approved, or the board approved a $20,000 maximum funding for change order to reimburse Case Toll Solutions for their portion of providing three-phase service. We were under the impression that three-phase was available to all the properties out there when we sold this property, and although I wasn't involved directly in those initial conversations, we have a reason to believe that they had a reason to believe that three-phase was available when they bought the property. So the board and council both approved a maximum of $20,000. The actual expenses have now come in based on and we did not have an AEP design at the time that this was originally approved. With the final design and final costs came in at initially at about $32,000 and change. We negotiated with the contractor a little, and they brought it down to $30,000. So this is basically the breakout of those costs. They took about $1,500 off of their estimate. Staff discussed this quite a bit internally, and of course it's up to the board. The board can choose to not recommend any additional funding on this. They could approve the entire amount. Staff is thinking that maybe we look at something about halfway between and say we'd approve another whatever that difference is. I think you have it in front of you. I don't have it on the screen. But
$5,000.
a little over $5,000. And that's basically where we are on this item right now. And for the board's information, this also extends power across the front of Case Toll's property with expansion capability to the properties beyond, and we will market those properties as needing to extend that power themselves.
That was going to be my question. This does not mean that there is three-phase power on the entire park.
That's correct.
Okay. We'll need to make that disclaimer.
From now on, we will make that disclaimer, and if we need to, we will work that into the offers.
Right. Right.
This is strictly commercial, correct?
Sorry?
Strictly for commercial development, correct?
It's strictly for industrial type development.
Okay.
Actually, the zoning is light manufacturing over most of the park, heavy manufacturing over this portion of the park.
Do you have a comment?
I mean, the way I view Case Toll or anybody that comes into an industrial park is they're our client at the end of the day. We have to make good on what we said that we were going to do. And I honestly don't have any problem actually allocating the entire amount based on the fact that that's what we had actually offered or advertised to them initially. Of course, that's just my opinion. Whatever the board decides to do in that.
I agree, Pedro. I think we represented to them that three-phase was out there. We need to honor our representation.
We have coverage for full. Other comments? All right, I need a motion.
I don't know.
So let me ask a question, because I will make a motion, but let me ask a question. With what entity, with whom were we thinking we might split the 10-6-12, or were we thinking we could negotiate only the 53-6?
No, sir. No, sir. It would be a Case Toll or their contractor would have to pick up the remainder.
Okay.
If we went with the split. And that was just something staff threw out there as a possible option.
Here's my motion. The board can decide if somebody wants to second it. I would make a motion that we approve up to and not exceeding $10,612 for the funding of the change order for Case Toll Solutions electrical service, and then recommend that to council while trying to see if we can partner with Case Toll on half of that. If it doesn't happen, then we'll have the approval to go up to the 10,612.
Second.
And that would be in addition to the, I just want to clarify, that would be in addition to the 20,000 already approved.
That would be in addition to the 20,000 already approved.
Thank you.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Hebert.
Second.
That was Richard, okay. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further board comment?
Just for clarity, this would not alter the plan as laid out on this map?
No, sir, it would not.
Okay.
Any public comment? All right, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next item, consideration and possible action regarding the funding for the proposed Smith Boulevard and Paul Ann Boulevard improvements, construction budget, and related action thereto for purposes of awarding the project bid to RFP ES 0314 Reese Albert in the amount of $718,255.80, amending the previous budget from $512,900 to $753,268.59, and allowing a 5% contingency in the amount of $35,012.79, with a total increase of project funds in the amount of $240,368.59, and recommending the same to City Council. Mr. Ryan Ward.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Morning. What I'd like to do, I noticed one of my, I'm going to have to upload my slides again. Let's see. What I'd like to do is give just a little bit of background. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this project. I know it's been ongoing since 2012. And really, kind of give you just a little bit of background. I know a lot of you are familiar with what's going on in our community here in San Angelo. We have the energy sector moving into this area. We've got all the stuff with the Klein Shell. And so cost and construction, hopefully this will, lead into some of the questions that could be happening. But, materials for construction have really gone up. I know this one was approved, the last budget for this back in 2013. So just to kind of give you a little background, what's kind of on the ground now out there at Paul Lynn is TxDOT has gone into collaboration with Howard College and us in the beginning to make some connections back there. And so they've really, Howard College at this point has spent about $13.6 million for their total project, where they're adding on to the back of the college. And there's some infrastructure involved in that. There's a turnaround to make a connection to this proposed project. There's also TxDOT has spent about $363,000 to extend their frontage road to get to this location, and also has plans in the future, like 2018, if the funding's there, proposed bridge to go over this area to make things safer. But just kind of wanted to give a little bit of background on this project, because I know it's kind of been ongoing. There's been a lot of changes design-wise over the last few years. Like I spoke to before, Howard College has basically completed their portion, and this is the Smith Boulevard roundabout that's behind the campus and ties into their new facilities in the back, along with TxDOT, what I just kind of mentioned. The project was open, bids on July 28th. Reese Albert was our sole bidder for this project, and came in at $718,255.80. And so that's what we're bringing this back. It was originally the budget for this project, after it had been changed numerous times, was at $512,900 is what was approved back on August 6th by City Council. And so what we were looking at too was looking at a 5% contingency. There's always in construction, there can be overruns, sometimes there's underruns. It just depends. This facility actually is in a low area. A lot of the drainage from around those different developments like Howard, You've got Porter Henderson, there's several, and then Mueller's property out there. Everything kind of drains, and there's a substantial box culvert that TxDOT has there, and everything drains to that. And everything will flow down this road, and then we have a channel designed to hopefully carry, not large storms, but up to about 10 to 25-year storm to hopefully, keep traffic moving for the college and other traffic that's going to be using that facility. This type of project, I know initially was looking at too, and may still develop Harold Mueller's property. That's I believe that's commercial. I'm not sure if that's commercial or industrial, but it will also help that future. But at the moment, what Howard's looking at too is safety. TxDOT has put a flashing beacon out there for safety several years ago, and actually extended the deceleration lane to get kids in and out of there safe. It's a high-speed facility. 65 is what it's typically speed limit. And right now it's under construction. It's about 60 miles an hour in there, but you have a lot of high-speed traffic and kids going to the college turning in that way. So there is a safety factor to this project because it's moving that entrance further down, for proposed future facilities, which we're hoping would be a bridge there. And this kind of gives you a look at what we're actually talking about. It connects there at US 67 frontage, and then basically heads northwest to where Smith Boulevard. And then the red that you see on the screen is what we're proposing to build. Paul Land will be a 48-foot wide section of roadway, and Smith Boulevard will be actually a half section, which is 26-foot wide. And there will be, actually at the intersection, it'll be full width, and we'll transition the road back down. These are just a few pictures of what's already on the ground and some of the facilities that are in place. There's the new US 67 frontage that's been completed, and this where you see the actual yellow, it's a delineation sign there, is actually where Paul Land will connect now, and so it'll just go straight. You'll turn off and go straight there. These are a few pictures of the Howard College facility and what they've got under construction right now. There's several buildings back there, parking lot, and then in the second picture you can see the roundabout that's actually already been completed with lighting. That's where we'll be tying into on this project in the back to make that connection. This is a photo of the design facilities of Paul Land. Just a quick overview of what we're looking at building out there. There's a substantial drainage channel within our right-of-way, but it will be on the Harold Mueller side of the property, and it will tie in with TxDOT's box culvert there at basically the south end. We have a design channel there. These are just some cross sections of what we're looking at. The channel is roughly about 17 foot wide to carry the water that has been designed. There's also a half section of what we're proposing and what's actually in the plans and been bid on for Smith. This last slide shows where we're at as far as the funding and what it was actually bid at and what it was previously. It was actually a 64-foot wide section. Reduced that down. We were trying to facilitate getting an easement on Mr. Mueller's side. We spoke to him several times. We could not get the easement, so we had to redesign. That's what's held the project up. And so we had to redesign the roadway, change some things as far as Paul Land Boulevard. So now we're at, with the sole bid that we have from Reese Albert, we're at $718,255.80, and we're proposing approximately $35,000 for the contingency, which totals $753,268.59, for an additional funds request of $240,368.59. Are there any questions or?
So are we, this additional $240,000, I see that, obviously about 35 of it is the contingency, so let's call it, for round number's sake, $200,000. Is this because the amount of time has passed, the cost of materials has gone up that much?
that's a significant cost impact to this project. You know, it's almost like we're seeing this in every sector being that we're out here right now. This is happening on TxDOT projects. A lot of the projects now are coming in between 30 and 40% over only because of the shift in materials. A lot of the oil fields using substantial on this project itself is the base material used in oil fields right now to build oil field roads. And that material, you know, has actually increased. I can't say exactly the percentage, but it's substantial. And so, you know, along with that and some of the other roadway materials, it really has since 2013, you know, that shift has changed significantly, and really probably in the last 4 to 5 months. You know, they can't hardly get the materials made quick enough to supply the needs for a lot of the oil field roadways. So we're seeing those costs, you know, and it's not just this project. We're seeing them all around on pretty much every project we've bid out lately, and TxDOT's seen kind of the same issue.
Ryan, I think when you looked at it, the cost of the base material on this project versus what we had originally budgeted is about double.
Yeah, yes, sir. It's almost double. The cost of the asphalt is probably, I would say, 25% higher than what we estimated, somewhere in there. So the materials, you know, they're able to ship a lot of these materials straight to the oil field and, you know, get the cost out of it without them even doing the construction aspect of it and putting it in, getting the same.
With with the reduction from the width of 64 feet to 48 feet, is that still going to provide Howard College in that area with adequate ingress, egress? I mean,
yes, that allows for 4 lanes fully, 12-foot widths, so that'll substantially get traffic moving in and out of there, even for future.
And when that property on the north side develops, Mr. Muller's property, he would be, in most cases, anyway, would be required to fully widen it to the full section. So there is some additional.
at his cost?
At his cost, yes.
So it would be that yellow strip that I see right there?
Yes,
That's
sir.
correct.
Okay.
This will also provide access to industrial facilities out there as well, correct?
That's correct. That's correct, because actually Smith proceeds on north there and ties into the back of some of the development that's already been developed over there by UPS and the John Deere Porter Henderson implements.
To my recollection, the property to the west of Smith Boulevard is zone heavy commercial, which allows for light manufacturing type functions. The property on the north side of Paul Ann is either heavy commercial or light manufacturing. So those properties do qualify as potential for creating primary jobs, and that's pretty much the only way we could do this.
That's what I was going to ask. Is that how originally it was looked at and justified, that it was extending a road to a business that would be a creator of primary jobs?
That's correct. And in addition, it also provides access to not just Howard College, but also the West Texas Training Center. Although that's a little bit weaker argument, the combination of the two justify being able to do the infrastructure.
I think the justification is the commercial activity that you said, and the other existing businesses are there, because, you know, I'm not sure from a Howard College standpoint that's a qualifying argument in my mind, but in terms of what it leads to with respect to the other businesses.
Right. And it's not the Howard College, it's the West Texas Training Center that does the industrial type training.
Right.
So.
Okay.
I will go ahead and make the motion that we increase the budget allocation to by $240,368.59, including the contingency fund that you had in there. And if you would just all add the appropriate verbiage to make this happen.
Oh, and add recommend the same to city.
And recommend the same to City Council, yes, sir.
I'll second that. Go ahead.
Okay.
We got a second and a third.
I've got a motion by Mr. Barrio, a second by, we'll give this to Tony V. Any further board comment? Any public comment? All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Get it
y'all.
done.
All All right.
Yeah, get it done before the price goes up.
Yeah, get it
Yeah.
quickly.
Get her done. Do it now.
All right, next item.
I would like to say one thing. Thank you very much. I'm Jamie Rainey with Howard College, and we thank you very much for moving forward. I do want to comment. I know it's much more about the commercial activity next door to this area, but we also are supporting the economy by, we're training welders, we're training HVAC technicians. These are going to be next codes that you actually could support. And we have over 350 dual credit students coming out there for career and technical education programs, from automotive to auto body to the welding to HVAC. And so we really appreciate it because we are helping to contribute to those basic jobs.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie, for all you do.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, moving on. Next item, consideration and possible action on the request for sponsorship from Forts to Plains Alliance. Mr. Pena.
About quarter till 11 or noon.
Okay, this request came from the Ports of Plains Alliance. It is for a sponsorship for their 17th annual conference to be held October 7th through the 9th. It is being co-hosted by the Texas Department of Transportation. This is submitted to you for your consideration. You'll see from the documentation that I provided in your board packet, there is a category range of sponsorships from $500 to $10,000. Since this was a non-budgeted item, I just felt like I would put the range and let the board decide your desire.
In 2012, we were a silver sponsor, I believe. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's the $2,500 level. That's just for y'all's reference. 2013, there wasn't a sponsorship. There was no conference, so there was nothing to sponsor.
Where's this taking place?
Del Rio, Texas.
See, this is one of those items that we were talking about previously, as far as what is it? What in fact is this in it for San Angelo in this sense? And I really don't see. I really don't see why we should sponsor this event.
Well, I do know that we have. I know, from the discussion we've had earlier, we have the city supports it, the city council supports it. It's one of those things that we are a part of from the city's perspective. So, a lot of these deals, it's sometimes hard to justify, but then there's also, it's just the right thing to do, for lack of a better way to put it. So
I guess then the discussion would be
level.
Yeah, the level of commitment from
Correct.
the city.
Correct.
I think you had mentioned the silver sponsorship at $2,500 before.
That was what we did in 2012, where we were the silver sponsor, and that was when it was in Medicine Hat, Alberta, Canada.
Okay. And who attends on our behalf?
The mayor.
And I'll attend. And I'm not sure if Bob's going to have that available, but I'll be attending. So to speak, it is in our backyard. It is along the corridor. So,
and we have, this is one of those things that I believe Drew Darby is a supporter of. I know that we have various other members of our city council that are involved and very supportive of as well.
And it is a legitimate legal expenditure on our part?
I don't see an impediment.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I don't see an impediment.
Okay.
Then I will make a motion that we approve this funding at the $2,500 level.
All right. I have a motion for $2,500. That's a silver sponsorship. Is that correct?
Yes.
Silver sponsorship for their annual conference in Del Rio. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by, is that Richard? Okay. All right, I have a motion for the $2,500 level and a second. Any further board discussion?
I don't see the benefit,
Okay.
candidly.
All right. Any public comment? All right, I will call for the vote. We have, for the $2,500 level, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
We got one. Let's do a show of hands. All those in favor? 4. Opposed? 3. Put a, as the mayor would say, a 4-3 on that one. All right, moving on. Update by staff regarding the following. I'll let you drive those.
Okay, I'm going to try to move very quickly. Just an FYI on the grant court allocation that we had reserved for that application that Bob Salas came before the board not too long ago. We had to do a budget amendment. That application was not awarded, so we'll be doing a budget amendment. We'll come back next month and pull that allocation and put that back in future projects. The next item is with regard to the AEP Quality Site Program. You may, I believe I sent y'all an invitation to a community presentation by Callum Sweeney, an AEP, and that's occurring next week, September 2nd, I believe, September 2nd, September 3rd. And they'll provide some insight in terms of site selection and site certification and its importance. We have received a letter from Callum Sweeney that we've been invited to participate in phase 3 of the certification of the business and industrial park. That's exciting for us. When we embarked on this effort, we determined that it would be a good learning experience for us. We didn't know at the time just how we would rate as at each invitation, phase 1 and phase 2. We've gathered a lot of data, a lot of information. It's been very vigorous for us. They've required specific detailed information. They did come down and made a site visit in phase 2 when we had all the utilities there, a good representation of about 20 or 24 folks of utility people. But phase 3 is going to require some expenditures. It'll require some studies, some engineering costs and estimates, and including cost and schedule estimates of clearing and grubbing and grading a building pad on the property, and to complete the estimate, the applicant, that's us, will have to assume a square or rectangular graded pad on a minimum of, for our site, 750,000 square feet. It will also require a phase 1 environmental site assessment. In addition to that, archaeological findings, historic sites, and so there'll be some additional studies with that regard. Let me see. A geotechnical study, soil samples. We'll also be talking to one of the utility companies, and that is the gas company, to help provide engineering cost and estimates to help provide services within 9 months. What else is required? A site concept plan, protective covenants, a draft set of protective covenants that at a minimum address building type, landscaping, parking, outdoor storage, setback specifications, and sign control, a master development plan. These are some of the items, and they're giving us 1 year to complete, so it'll be submitted to them on or before August 15th of 2015. If successful, the site will be certified, and that certification will be with us for 5 years. So we'll be certified for 5 years, and then we'll have to recertify just whatever updates that we may have in the event things change. But we're very excited about the potential of what that means for us. In the next few months, we'll be trying to determine what those costs are going to be for us, and we'll be bringing that to the board. But already what we've done in phase 1 and phase 2, we've utilized those materials for other site selectors and other companies that are looking. In fact, what we'll discuss in executive session, we were able to utilize what we've put together for phase 2, and so it's made us much more efficient. It's helped us obtain some of the tools that we've been needing, and so for us, it's been a good experience, and we're hopeful that during this course of phase 3 we'll be able to get certified. The other thing about the certification, we're only one of 2 sites in the state of Texas that AEP will be submitting for certification. Obviously, AEP serves 11 states, but in terms of the state of Texas, 2 sites will be submitted for certification. And so this will be just a great marketing tool for us with that certification. If you don't have any questions on that, then I'll report on the air service development plan. We are making a trip to Minot on September 16th and returning on September the 18th. In the past, I believe other board members have participated. We looked at the cost. It's hard to get there, and it's expensive, and so to just keep the cost down, we've limited the number. I've now talked to the chairman, Scott, about it, and we both agreed that we try to limit the numbers. So Lou and I and David Alexander and consultant will be having some meetings with our counterparts there as we proceed with the development of that plan. Currently, just to give you a status and progress, you may remember the consultant that made the presentation was going to be securing an air service partner, Alivianum. So they've been hired. They've started on the leakage study, and the market assessment is underway. And that is all I have for the moment. But we'll be coming back to you with some more information as this progresses. Other than that, I am open to answering any questions that you may have.
Questions? Nope. All right. That concludes our regular agenda. We will now move into executive session. Executive session under the provision of Texas Government Code Title V, Open Government Ethics, Subtitle A, Open Government Chapter 551, Open Meetings, Subchapter D, exceptions to the requirement that meeting be open under the following. Section 551.072 to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, and Section 551.087 to discuss an offer of financial or other incentive to a company or companies with whom the City of San Angelo Development Corporation is conducting economic development negotiations, in which the City of San Angelo Development Corporation seeks to have, locate, stay, or expand in San Angelo. It is 11 o'clock. There we go. Okay, we're back. All right, it is 11:26, and we are out of executive session. The only thing I do have to report, and I will need a motion for approval to move forward for the consideration of authorizing the sale of up to approximately 10 acres of land at the industrial park adjacent to and immediately north of the tract owned by Case Toll Solutions Incorporated. The acreage configuration to be determined by survey on the ground, and authorizing staff to negotiate a real estate contract. This will be at $25,000 per acre to Schubert Construction.
I will make that motion.
All right.
Second that motion.
I think that's approximately 10 acres. 'Cause we don't know.
I said approximately
Yeah.
10
Okay,
acres.
Okay, good.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Barrio. A second by Tommy. Any further board discussion? No public to comment much. All right, I need all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Announcements.
I do have one quick one. We're having a lot of issues with our website. It basically is no longer supported and doesn't run very well on some of the newer web browsers and what have you. So I'm going to be starting talks with the web host, the host, to redo the website. We'll be bringing that back as a future agenda item.
Okay. Good. Other announcements?
Just a reminder of the McCallum Sweeney community presentation. We'd love to have the board members there.
Yes.
We'll post for that as well.
All right. Future agenda items, we do have the CVCED presentation that I'm assuming y'all will be bringing back at a further meeting, a future meeting, the one that we pulled from the agenda today.
That's correct.
That'll be brought back. Any other items to be requested by board members? All right, I need the best motion of the
I will make
day.
the motion to adjourn this meeting.
I got a motion.
Second, third,
Have a
and fourth.
Second, third, and fourth by Mr. Hebert. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.